Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show Live. It's our midweek Leeds United show where we take a look at all the latest Leeds United news, round up everything that's been going on, look ahead to the next game, and it's a huge game this week. I'm Stephen Brown, and with me, as ever, for our Leeds United content, it is Mr. Jason Booker. Jason, how are we doing, mate?
Very well, my friend, very well. Getting excited for the weekend. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm not nervous. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. And yeah, I just think at the moment it's a good time to be a Leeds fan, isn't it? Like
it is
news around us.
It is really, isn't it? I mean, kind of every direction you look at the minute, it's all positive, and we're going to get to some of those positive points as well. I mean, we're recruiting from Liverpool, for goodness sake. I mean, what is going on? Who would have thought that in the summer of madness that we had? But the club as a whole, it's on the up. Everything's looking positive. 8 wins on the bounce, Jason. Let's have a look at something that we're enjoying looking at these days, as opposed to last year where you just kind of wanted to forget it existed. The league title, there we go. We've got it, and we're sitting pretty now. We're in second place, outright now. No
flashed on and flashed off, Brownie.
Well, has it gone off? Let me get it back on.
There we go.
But sorry. Yeah, so basically, look at us now. We're in second place outright. There's no other teams with games in hand or anything like that. We're there by merit now. Yeah. The results went for us. Certainly one result went for us on Tuesday night because you had Southampton and Ipswich in action. Southampton losing at home to... What you do have to say, Hull are looking pretty damn good.
Tricky team out there playing.
I mean, with those January additions, I mean, you never know, do you? I mean, if we ended up in the playoffs, I wouldn't fancy playing them, I tell you that. But a great result for us. And Southampton, I mean, after how many games unbeaten? And now they've lost 2 in 4 or whatever it is. I mean, it's a real wobble, isn't it? Did they peak too soon, do you reckon?
It's interesting, isn't it? It could hardly have been believed after the West Brom Preston back-to-back defeats at Christmas that we would be in this position. Like, I thought we would still be able to track down second. I thought it was still there for us. It's still something to chase. But I said to you, I thought we'd finish in the playoffs. And only a matter of a few games later, really, 8 games later, we're in second. We're actually out and out in second. No game in hand situation after that. We brought the game forward to play Norwich to deal with the cup clashes. We're actually out and out in second. And we deserve it. Ipswich's wobble has probably been ongoing for a little bit longer. Well, it has been ongoing for a little bit longer. They've been kind of on bad form for a while. I think it's 2 wins in 10 or 3 wins in 10, something like that. Southampton, 22 games they went without losing, and they've ended up 2 points behind us. It's unbelievable, really. It's absolutely unbelievable. I think they'll still be there, but I think the pressure is all on them now. Every game, and not only they've been resoundingly beaten too. They've not just been, shelved out a 1-goal game like against Bristol City, especially. They were comprehensively beaten. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen the goals from the Hull game, but the absolute disaster class. Hull remind me a little bit of us. The front four are extremely potent, real dynamic and difficult to get hold of. They press really well. And then, further back in the team, they have some good players. You think of a Seri who's just come back from the African Cup of Nations, international midfielder. He's a top player. I mean, he signed for... I think it was Fulham originally in the Premier League for big money. Good player. So, they have some quality within that team. They have some stalwarts as well. Louis Coyle, ex-Leeds, but he's a Hull diehard Hull fan. His brother, Tommy Coyle, was a professional boxer. Hull, legend over there was Tommy. So I just think they've got a bit about them, and I really like Liam Rosenior. I think he's a top manager. So yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Hull are a team that you'd want to avoid in the playoffs. I think they'll get there. I do think they'll get there. But as for us, mate, we've said for pretty much the whole of this season, we just need to make sure that we do what we need to do, because there will be opportunities between now and the end of the season. And at times we just weren't taking them opportunities. Stoke, Coventry at home, West Brom, like these moments kept on coming where we were given an opening and we weren't walking through the door. And the fact is, through January and February, we've walked through the door every single time. We've been challenged. We've taken it. We've taken ourselves upon that, whether it be mediocre team, whether it be a low block, whether it be a good team. Because bear in mind, we beat Ipswich 4-0 at Ellen Road not so long back. I know that were before the 2 defeats, but we were still beating these teams in and around us. Friday, tomorrow, is an acid test. It is. It's his biggest test of the season, with the exception of the game at the King Power. Because, Leicester, they're a top team. So we beat them, mate.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're going to dig into that Leicester preview as well. Guys, if you're watching along, please do smash a like on the video and get your comments in as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Good evening, Mr. Downs, who had his own show earlier on. Evening, lads. Have a good show. Come on, Leicester, you Foxes. I think he's trying to get a bit of trolling back, isn't he, for his earlier show this evening. But welcome along anyway, mate.
I cannot believe the new Huddersfield manager in his first press conference brought up Leeds United. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Like, never would you ever.
I know, that's it. It's incredible, isn't it? It just makes me laugh, and especially now with what Maresca said today as well. That's getting a bit of heat as well. So it's all fun and games. Ian, welcome along, mate. Thought Ipswich were gone, but they're now back in it.
They're not. They're not back in it. I really, really don't think they're back in it. Beating Rotherham 4-3 in the last minute, that for me is not a sign of, they're able to scrape themselves out of these situations. They were pegged back several times by Rotherham. I know we drew against them earlier on the season, but it's different now. The state of the situation is different, and Rotherham are terrible. They are dead and
Can I just
buried.
say, though, sorry to cut you off, but the fact that Rotherham played back to 3-3 with a penalty in the 94th minute, lads, hang on for just 1 minute. Like,
away from home when you get a point, it's just bizarre, isn't it?
How are you so inept? Like, how are you that terrible? Because I had literally thought that was it, the penalty, because I'd put it in our WhatsApp group. I was like, Ipswich, they've dropped points. And then I looked again, I was like, what? Yeah. What are you talking about? They conceded in the 94th minute, then go and get the winner in the 95th. I'm like, Rotherham, come on, man. Unbelievable. Absolutely unreal. Nige, evening, guys. It's a must-not-lose game tomorrow. Welcome along, Nige. And Alison, evening, all draw for me tomorrow. It's going to be an absolutely fascinating one. Are you kind of looking forward to Leeds being tested a little bit more? Because I know, obviously, the Plymouth game wasn't exactly a steamroll. It wasn't kind of what we've seen in the last few weeks, certainly not on this run. But are you excited to see us actually face a team that's certainly at our level, obviously by their league position, and they've got Premier League quality in their team? Are you excited, actually, that it's going to be a different challenge almost, in a way?
I just think it's going to be a spicy game. I just think it'll be a great game. I really expect our best players to kind of step up and enjoy the game. I don't think they'll feel pressured by it or overawed or anything like that. I think they'll be right at it from word go. I expect a blood and thunder game, and I think if we can play to the levels that we've been showing throughout 2024, I think we win comfortably. Yeah. I really do. I'm really, really confident. I think 2-0 or 3-1. I think we'll win the game by a couple of goals. I feel really, really confident. I think there'll be moments, but I just expect us to kind of turn up and fashion out similar kind of performance to what we've been seeing. And I'm not overawed by Leicester. I've watched them quite a few times this season, and I've never been particularly wowed with them or blown away. They've got individual quality in buckets, but as a team and as a style, I don't think they're anything particularly special.
No, it's going to be interesting because obviously, I mean, especially, their forward line is so strong. They've got choice of so many different strikers, different types of strikers. I mean, Iniacho, Vardy, Daka, it's all there, isn't it, in an abundance. So it's going to be fascinating. Do you think, what do you make of the managers and how they're kind of previewing this game as well? Because obviously Farkas had his press conference yesterday. He's playing it very cool. He's saying things like it's important not to lose your cool and be over motivated. The final table is the thing that matters. All these kind of level-headed comments. And then you've got Maresca, who's come out and saying it's a huge game for Leeds, but for them, it's just another game. what do you make of that? Because I've got to admit, when I saw that, I was like, oh, to me, that's like a telltale sign of stress or a bit of pressure when you're trying to deflect it like that. I mean, he's had an obviously incredible impact at the club and he's got them to where they are this season, but it hasn't been plain sailing in terms of fan reaction and those kind of issues. I think even maybe with the club, he'd a bit disappointed in January, that kind of thing. And it's fascinating to see those two characters. One, obviously, Farker, who's been here time and time before, won the division outright twice. His club are on the best run of form in the country out of any of the leagues. What do you make of that? Is there much to read into this, or is it just kind of it is what it is?
I think some of it is just antics that you're going to just see. We've seen it before, haven't we? But I definitely think some of it can be used. I think Daniel Farker's gone about it perfectly. I think he's kind of said, his truth. I think he's been as honest as he possibly can be in that, he's not looked at Leicester. Leicester, he would still expect to finish in the top two, which I think we all do. I think that's a fair assessment of the situation. And he's absolutely right to say that it's just another opportunity to win 3 points, which is what it is. I made the point last week that the game away at Plymouth arguably is as tricky as this one is at home when you consider it's just 3 points. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Argyle had not lost at home since October.
True.
So there's an argument to say that was as tricky as this is. So let's just roll into it and deliver our very best performance. I think Maresca's comments are of somebody that is looking to try and gain a psychological edge. Now, whether it does or not is a different question. But we've seen this before. I remember years back when Kevin Blackwell absolutely destroyed Billy Davis.
Yeah.
Billy Davis had said job done after Ellen Road, and then we went and beat him at North End. Yeah. And Kevin Blackwell had it on a big piece of paper on the team board, job done in speech marks. And we ended up going and beating them 2-0. And we finished the game with 9 men that day. You know what I mean? Like, it's unbelievable what psychological warfare can kind of do. So hopefully, Daniel Farker used it. I don't think he needs to. I really, really don't think he needs to. I think they have an extremely good team, but we've seen earlier on in the season when arguably they were more in the ascendancy than we were. They had their, form together. They had their situation together much better than we did. We turned up there and we controlled that game, really. They had a couple of moments which you'd expect for the best team in the division at the time at home, but their big moment came right before half-time, they hit the crossbar, and then right at 90th minute, Melier pulled out a save. That were it. We weren't peppered. No. We controlled large parts of the game and could have probably won that game by 2 goals.
He was in denial about that game, wasn't he? When he came out after, he was saying that Leeds are not the best team we've faced here, and Ipswich were more impressive, I think he was saying, and they didn't do that much. I mean, it was just complete denial of what he'd actually seen in front of his face.
It's delusion at that stage. And I'd much prefer a manager that's open and honest to the assessment of what he sees in front of him. And I think we've seen that with Daniel Farker on the whole, is that he is quite open and honest with the situation. I think there's a couple of things he's called wrong, but there's always going to be bias involved. But I would say man to man, I've got the Leicester team up from the game against Middlesbrough. I would say man for man, I would say that we have the better side. I genuinely believe that, and I try and detach the bias to it. But I go through player by player, and there's a couple in there that I would absolutely have. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, I would argue that Ricardo Pereira is probably the best fullback in the division. Patson Daka, maybe you would have. Mavadidi, you would have. Fatawu, you would probably have. But would you replace Fatawu over Somerville? No, not for me. Mavadidi, I would say the same. Daka in our formation over Bamford? Probably not, if he's fully fit. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, you would have to say you would probably take him, but I would have an hard time dropping one of our midfielders. I really would. Ricardo Pereira would, of course, play over Archie at fullback, but you're few and far between. Our team is as good as any you will ever see at this level. It really is. So we've got nothing to be fearful of.
No, exactly. Ian, Leeds are the form team. Leicester at the moment appear to be wobbling slightly, and some fans' criticism of Maresca is strange. Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know why. these managers, when they say things like that, why would you even risk giving an extra 5% motivation to the other team, though? Why would you even risk it at all? You know,
It's deflection. That's what it is. It's deflection. It's to try and take the attention away from either what they're doing or not doing, and try and put that then on someone else. You know, the pressure's on Leeds. Well, you know, arguably it's not. You know, I mean, I made the point to in the review the other day to Lewis that you know the pressure was on us, and at the end of the day, we are still the one with the gap to close, and we're still the ones directly with Southampton and Ipswich right on our tails now. We're the ones being chased now, so I do feel that. But Lewis made a great point in that, you know, the pressure's starting to descend on Leicester very, very quickly, and I absolutely buy into the idea that, you know, this gap at 9 points now, if we win the game on tomorrow on Friday, and it's cut to 6. The situation changes massively, because not only are we only then 6 points behind, but as long as Southampton and Ipswich win at the weekend as well, they're only 7 points behind. And that's the bigger fear for a thing, because very quickly that gap can disappear.
Yeah.
Like 6 points is still a you know, a considerable amount, considering they would have to drop 2 games and we would have to win 2 more than them. It's not just us win 2 and then lose 2, because we might lose 2 as well between now and the end of the season. You have to turn that gap right round. But once you're then within touching distance and you're 3-4 points, the pressure changes. They've had to deal with a 15-point gap all season. Like, they've not had that level of pressure all season. You know, the King Power, when they go 1-0 down, would have been quite comfortable before. All of a sudden, they start getting on the backs and they start getting a bit, you know, wary of what's coming and sensitive almost, and it changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the way we've kind of chased this lead down, I mean, you would never have thought a couple of months ago we'd have got anywhere near it. And I think as well, if you're Leicester and if you're Maresca, and if you don't get promoted this season, I don't know why, but I can't imagine it going to a second season and being like this and them flying. And I feel like this really is their best chance. Whereas at least, yeah, look, we don't want to stay in this division. It will be hard next year. We'll lose with these players, but at least Farke has form for being at a club a second year in the Championship and producing the same results again. Whereas I think with Maresca at Leicester, I just can't see him being with them again in the Championship if they don't get promoted. And who knows if these thoughts are going through his head, you know, thinking, God, can I do this again in this division?
It'd be a far bigger disaster for them not to go up than it would us. Far bigger. They've got much bigger money issues than we do. Their club is built on loan debts. I don't think that they've got the player base that would potentially stick around. I think we would lose a few. I think they would lose all of them. You know, Valves, James Justin, Ricardo Pereira, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, Mavadidi, Fatawu, Daka. Like, it literally stripped that whole team out pretty much. I think you'd probably see Dennis Pratt, Harry Winks, Vestergaard stay, but you talk few and far between would stay. You're not talking anywhere near the same kind of side.
No, I agree, and I think it'd be pretty tricky. And who knows this pressure, what it can do to people. In terms of a prediction for the game, then, Jason, I mean, what are we going to see here? Do you think, are we going to see a tight, cagey affair similar to what it was at Leicester's ground, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more open potentially? How do you see it kind of going?
I think we go right at them. I really do. I think we go right at them early. I think you see top performances from Gio and Cree, and that'll see us really set the tone in the game. And, you know, for me, it's not a must win. I've seen a few people say it's a must not lose. Don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if a point is that much more than a loss to us at this situation. I think it's really important that we don't lose at home. I think the longer we keep that unbeaten run, the better. I absolutely see the value in that. But for me, I don't think we should have that fear attached to it. It's not. They are beatable. They're really beatable. We've beaten them already. Middlesbrough have beaten them already twice. Yeah, like, so they are beatable. And at Ellen Road, I just fully feel like we win the game. We just have to take our chances. Like, we're not going to get as many chances tomorrow as we have done against Plymouth and against some of these other teams in this run. We have to be more clinical and make sure that we take the moments, because they will be in the game for as long as it's only 1 goal gap. They've got some dangerous players, so it's really important for me that we get a 2-goal lead at some point within this game, and then we can see it out, because I trust the back line. I trust the back line completely. So yeah, I think we go at them. I think you see a fast-paced start, and I think I hope we find ourselves in a situation where we've got a comfortable lead and we can see this game out. I see that's how I see it going, mate.
Yeah, what's amazing about this run of form we've been on as well, I consider myself quite a pessimistic kind of Leeds fan. You know, I'm one who's kind of thinking the worst is going to happen.
You're slightly more half empty than me, and I'm slightly more half full. Just, I would say.
But even now, winning this amount of games and seeing how the team is performing, that confidence it gives you. I mean, I'm even thinking when we got to Chelsea, I'm like, we're going to give Chelsea a game. We could be, we could get past Chelsea. I really feel like we're going to give Chelsea a good game. I don't think it's going to be, look like a normal division below team versus a Premier League team. I think we're really going to give Chelsea a really good game. I think we've got a really good chance of going through. I think it'll be a cracking game, actually, against Chelsea. And it's amazing what that confidence does, doesn't it?
100%. I truly believe, and we said this a couple of weeks ago, mate, that I wouldn't include Ipswich in this, even though they're in and amongst the race at the moment. The 3 relegated teams are just an extension of the Premier League. They are so much better than the rest of this division. This division is not the same division that it was when we got promoted under Bielsa. It's not. It's so much lower. And the gap in the teams that got promoted is the teams that are challenging at the top are so much better. Us, West Brom finished second the season we won the league.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
and the team that came out of the playoffs, Fulham, I think it was.
Yeah, Fulham.
Yeah, under Scott Parker. West Brom finished second, didn't they? I'm sure they did, and they just kind of crept over the line. They were proper trying to throw it away, and then if you remember, we battered them in the Premier League and they got relegated again.
Yeah.
Under Sam Allardyce.
Yeah.
These 3 teams that we're talking about now, Leeds, Leicester, and Southampton, they are miles ahead of them 3 teams that got promoted under the season that Bielsa took us up. Miles ahead. So I don't think we should look at Chelsea and think, oh my God, like they're just so much better than us. Like when we used to play Arsenal or Tottenham or whoever, Man City. We've played a few teams in the FA Cup and League Cups over the season, and they've been such a big gulf. This isn't quite that, especially not with this version of Chelsea. Although I do think that they've picked up a bit of form recently. They look like they're starting to get it together a little bit. They've got a lot of young players, so it's gonna take time.
Yeah, it should at least be competitive, shouldn't it? Should at least be.
Yeah. The thing is, mate, we've got players that can hurt them.
Yeah.
And while you've got players that can hurt them going forward, you always stand a chance. This team is full of attacking talent.
Well, this is one thing I've always been fascinated about is obviously modern managers and their tactical setup, you tailor it to your opposition. But it almost feels like Leeds are in a position now where we just go and do our thing. Obviously, we have a massive advantage in terms of how good the individual players are. But I almost feel even going up against Chelsea, because we've got this belief and we've got this way of playing, everybody knows their jobs, everything's running like clockwork at the moment. We almost just need to be at that level still. I mean, if you're a manager going into it, is it loads of tactical tweaks, or are you saying, look, we do our thing, we're confident, we're in a good place, and this should see us through, or at least make us competitive?
This conversation has been coming up a lot recently in between what some managers do on the week-to-week basis in terms of the team goes out and they play their style and other teams have to try and adapt to them or deal with it. Or do you play game by game? I don't know if you've seen the Stick to Football with Wayne Rooney was on it.
Yes.
And he even mentioned it in his first season at Derby. It was just game by game by game. And then
what you're missing out, Huddersfield?
I actually thought he spoke really well, by the way.
Yeah, he did actually. It was all right. Yeah.
I think he's a terrible manager, but I thought he spoke really, really well the other day. It was quite enjoyable to listen to him. But I think it's a big thing in football now. And I truly believe that the very best managers in whatever division you're in, so Daniel Farke is without a doubt, top 3 manager in this division. It's unquestionable. He very much sees it as, this is our style of play and this is the way that we're going to play in this game. And if it's not working, we make it work better. Same as Bielsa was in this division, same as Bielsa was in the Premier League. And you have to evolve and improve that with small tweaks. And we've seen that this season with small tweaks from Daniel Farke. Daniel Farke's found different ways to deal with the low block. He started going long, started playing it into the channels. He started pressing higher up. Like, he's found adaptations, but it's still the same tactic. It's still the same formation, just with changes. So I personally think that we go into that Chelsea game exactly the same way. You make small adjustments for their dangerous players. You know, you're aware of the fact that Conor Gallagher's going to be all over you like a rash. You're aware of Mudryk's speed on the counter, and you try and adapt to that. But usually it's an individual adaptation. So it's one player that'll play a little bit differently to kind of accommodate that, rather than a complete restructuring of the team. You find that these teams that chop and change on the weekly, they don't have a clue what they're doing. Gary Neville mentioned it when he went to Valencia. He was changing different formation every week, and the players lose faith. They can't understand it. These are highly tuned athletes that need a formula and a structure and a tactic when they go out there on the pitch to be able to put it into practice. If it's chopping and changing every week, you can't get it together. So no. I understand it. I understand exactly why we stick to that. We loved it under Bielsa. Why would we not love it now, especially in the Championship?
Exactly. It's funny actually as well, because like when I play Football Manager, I am just like a one tactic person.
I'm the same.
Like, I will just one tactic it whoever I'm playing, because anytime I've ever tried to change it in the past, I get humped. I'll go, right, I'm going to go super defensive against Arsenal, and I get humped like 6-0. And I'm like, what was the point of that? I might as well have just done my usual tactic.
Yeah.
Anyways, some comments to get through. Gail, these players are taking away my
pessimism.
Pessimism. There we go. Thank you, Jason. Yes, exactly. I feel exactly the same way there, Gail. 100%. Interesting one here from Alison as well. I think there's a case for Dan James to play against Leicester. He tortured them last time. Yeah, great point. Who knows? Maybe the chance for DJ to.
I don't think it's a bad call, but I'd be shocked if it happens.
Yeah, me too. Diggler, welcome along, mate. Leicester fans are nervous right now, I reckon, but at the same time, we ideally need to win, in my opinion. But the good news is this team are defo capable of beating them. Yeah, absolutely. It certainly feels that way. Great article by Phil Hay in The Athletic. I think he dropped this one yesterday, talking about Leeds' defensive stats and why it makes them a front runner to get automatic promotion. Incredible statistics when you're talking about XG against, big chances against. Leeds are topping the charts. I mean, incredible defensive performance this season. I think we've conceded just as many as Leicester at the moment. We're hunting down that, 26 each. We're hunting down that goal difference. This is a club, Jason, we've spoke about this, recently as well. This was a club that was breaking records for poor performance in the Premier League in terms of, conceding goals, breaking month records and all sorts of terrible things. The defence this season, I mean, it really has been the rock bed. And I'm thinking back and I'm going, yeah, we've not looked dodgy at the back at any point, have we? I mean, you look
at... Not in 2024.
Not in 2024, no. I think... possibly before, there may have been a few things that needed to be ironed out. I mean, it was interesting because Daniel Farke was asked about Struijk in the press conference and, would he come back into the team, everything like that. And Farke was like, I'd love to have him available. He's not going to say yes, he'd go straight back in for sure, but he'd love to have him available. But, I mean, the defensive output this season has just been absolutely phenomenal. And this is another thing. This is why I don't think it'll just fall apart against Chelsea, because they're just so rock solid.
It's funny because do you remember the old, or you definitely will remember the adage of 1-0 to the Arsenal, and they under Graham, especially George Graham, they won games 1-0 all the time, and it always kind of confused me how you could kind of base your game around that. Jose Mourinho did it similar, and went about the kind of art of winning games in a similar kind of way, and I don't think we're doing that. Because we've got far more attacking intent than that. When we score, we look to score again. But the big difference in between this and the Bielsa team is it's so pragmatic. It's not crazy in its attempts to score more goals. And I mean, Bielsa's Leeds were good defensively too. By the way, they had a lot of clean sheets as well. But it was more from just a will skill set. I think we harried teams out of possession. We were intent on constantly attacking them, and they were so worried about what was coming at them that they found attacking hard themselves. It wasn't particularly from a defensive masterclass performance, where I feel like this team, the game against the game in what was the 1-0? I think it might have been Bristol City, the Bristol City game.
Yeah.
Even though it was 1-0 for pretty much the whole game, it never felt like we were going to concede. I weren't sat there thinking, oh my God, we're going to concede. And we when we have conceded this year, it's been a set piece whipped in and just odd, weird moment that it doesn't look like from open play like we're ever really going to concede. Ilhan Melior's had his questions fired at him this year, and I think rightly so, this season rightly so. But the facts are, this in 2024, he's had nothing to do. He literally has had nothing to do. So what do you say to that? It's an unbelievable achievement. It's an unbelievable achievement. And, Ampadu and Rodon especially, and then with Gruev, as part of that central defensive kind of cohort, deserve so much credit. And the other boys as well. I'm not going to, forget Mr. Senior Firpo and Archie. Archie's been great. I think defensively he's stepped up and up and up this season. Every challenge that's come across him is improved. He improves every single week, I think. I really do. To the point now where I'm not even bothered if Connor Roberts gets in. When we signed him, it made perfect sense that he came straight in. He's an out-and-out championship winning team of the season right back last season. But Archie's just been excellent. And Junior, he's been okay defensively. And he offers us so much going forward. So I love how easy they found it recently. In before we concede 3 against Leicester tomorrow, no doubt. But it has felt easy watching us defend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ian asks here, how would Rodon and Ampadu do in the Premier League? I mean, they've flirted with a Premier League career, the pair of them before, but what do you think on that one, Jason?
I think it's a great question. A really, really great question. I don't think Joe Rodon's been given an opportunity. I think it were a weird signing, if I'm honest. I thought it were a weird signing when they made it. Jose Mourinho kind of went desperate for a centre-back, signed him, and then never played him, and then he went out on loan to France. So I think he's only made 12 senior appearances for Spurs. And, the players that they've got back there, Christian Romero and Van der Ven. Van der Ven's superb. He's a fantastic, he's a world-class centre-back. And Christian Romero's a World Cup winner. So, you're talking about 2 top-level centre-backs. I think Joe Rodon will be fine. I don't think Ethan Ampadu will be a Premier League centre-back. I think he will end up back in midfield. I'm really happy with him now because we have a lot of possession and he's allowing us to have another cog in the build-up phase going forward because we spend so much time with the ball. And he's good enough defensively to deal with this division. In the Premier League, I think it's a different kettle of fish. But we'd have to wait and see. There's no way that if we get promoted this season, there's no way that he starts as our starting centre-back. No way. No. Not for me.
Do you think with Rodon, if I was Postecoglou, I'm looking at Rodon in the Championship and going, you could be my 4th centre-back in a Spurs squad that potentially is in the Champions League. I mean, I know they signed the guy from over from Italy, didn't they? I don't know his name. Yeah. And they've got him, like you say, Romero and Van der Ven, top quality. But as that 4th kind of option, Rodon, I mean, wouldn't you be looking at him and going, okay, this is a guy that, is British, 24, look, if you can offer him 15, 20 appearances a season, would he be happy with that playing at the top level?
Is that what Joe wants, though? That's the question, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, he's a top-level international who will want to play week in, week out. And the facts are, I would say probably the bottom 7, Joe Rodon would play 38 games a season. I really believe he's a Premier League centre-back in the Championship. He's a top centre-back. He's quick enough. His defensive awareness is good. He's good in the air. He's good in the tackle. He's a leader. I think is a top player, and everything that we're hearing about Rodon is that he loves it here. So if we get promoted or not, I mean, there might be a chance that we can keep him in the Championship. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so, because I'd have thought there'd have been a lot of interest in him. But I certainly think if we get promoted, I would fully imagine that he'll be one of the first signings that come through the door.
Yeah, indeed. Is Struijk Premier League level for you, or could he be? I mean, it's an interesting one, Struijk, because if we remember the first season, him and Llorente had a brilliant partnership.
Yeah, the last 10 games,
superb. And you thought Struijk, is that ceiling. Obviously, had 2 poor seasons, really, or certainly 1 really bad season. What do you think? Is there enough about Struijk, do you think, to ultimately be a Premier League level defender?
I'm undecided. I think he's got the potential. I think he's still young. As a centre back, he's got loads of time on his hands. There's loads that I love about him, and I think this season has certainly been a bit of a redemption arc for him. He's improved this season, but he's playing against much worse players. He probably needed this season more than anyone, to kind of rebuild that confidence. Same as Meslier, they arguably both needed a season where they would be coming under far less scrutiny from top level attackers. But it begs to be seen yet whether he can do it in the Premier League on a consistent basis. I would imagine if we were to go to the Premier League this season, we would see Rodon come in and we would see another centre-back come in that would be first team ready, because I would imagine that Cooper would leave. Ampadu wouldn't be considered as a centre-back other than emergencies, and Struijk would probably be the one that would be considered to be, we need a better centre-back. I'm talking 20-25 million pounds worth of centre-back. I would imagine if we got promoted to the Premier League, you would see a very different looking starting 11 next season. I really believe that. I think there'll be a lot of changes in that side to make sure that we're good enough.
Are you allowing yourself to picture Leeds in the Premier League? Is that thought coming into your head where you're thinking, what we're going to do in the summer? Who's going to fit? Who's going to stay? Are you allowing yourself that, especially now that we're in that top 2 by merit? Is it just that little voice in your head that's jumping ahead?
Yeah, maybe a little, but there's a long way to go in the season yet. And as I've said a few times now, I'm just enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying watching my team week in, week out. I'm enjoying seeing us win so often and making some of these teams look silly. It's nice. It's enjoyable. I really want us to get promoted, but I'm not desperate like I was when we were under Bielsa. Even when we came back from the break and we had the gap and then we lost to Cardiff, every week, especially while COVID was still going on and we're all in lockdown and whatnot, it was everything that was on my mind. I was every game, the build-up was just awful. I was saying to my missus, love, we're playing Barnsley tonight. God, we need to win. And I'm thinking about it all day. You know it, don't you? And I'm sure that most of the chat were the same. It was all I thought about. I'd been looking online, looking at their players, looking at their team, who's injured. I was obsessed. And watching a game was just scrutiny. It was horrible. Until we got promoted and until it was confirmed. And then I would even argue that the next season was a bit like that. As much as I enjoyed the Premier League season, we were 15 points clear. I'm but they could still catch us. They're only 15 points. If we lose this game and then they win that one, it was ridiculous. And then obviously we had the 2 seasons after that, which was so bad. For me, this season doesn't feel anything like that. We're in the title challenge, or we're in a promotion battle where we win most games and we get to see really good, fun football with really, really good players every single week. So I'm not in this kind of desperate urge for that Premier League back as much as I still want it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it leads us on nicely to kind of the next thing I kind of wanted to bring up, and talking about Leeds' potential Premier League future. And it feels very different because almost, I think when Bielsa was there and the ownership we had at that time, it felt kind of, I don't want to say kind of not Mickey Mouse, but kind of it was, we had no Premier League scale to our club at all, did we? The infrastructure, the setup from kind of top to bottom was not Premier League. It was a club that had been out of the Premier League for 16 years. The infrastructure, everything was just Championship, really.
It wasn't even Championship, mate.
It wasn't, no, in a lot of cases, it wasn't even Championship. And obviously, Bielsa was the equaliser, what he could get at the players and everything like that. And I think that added to the anxiety as well. It was like, this could fall apart at any point, especially in the Premier League. I remember when we lost heavily at Old Trafford, and it was like, oh no, we've been found out possibly, and all this kind of stuff. But now it's been announced today that Leeds have secured a new academy manager directly from Liverpool as well. It's Martin Diggle, who's going to be the new academy manager. He's agreed to join Leeds. So, I mean, it's kind of startling when you just look at the headline and you go, hang on, Leeds are getting someone from Liverpool. What is going on? It's another role in the club that they've been looking to fill. That's not being filled since Adam Underwood moved into a different role. He's now head of football operations since the 49ers took over. Obviously, it's difficult to judge how it's going to work and everything like that. But just on paper, when you just look at it, you look at all the moves the 49ers have been putting in place behind the scenes, it's encouraging, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive, mate. It's absolutely massive. When I applied for my role that I got at Leeds, there were maybe, 30 to 40, I would say, job opportunities that were put up at the same time. Different international scouts, video scouting, analysis scouting, local junior scouts, academy scouts, first team scouts. Like there was several put up, which just tells you straight away that, like, what did we have before? They've employed 30 to 40 roles,
wasn't it? I think, and
it's unbelievable. I mean, I saw Joe Wayman make a comment on one of his videos earlier today, and I don't want to rip it off and steal it, so I'm going to make sure that people know I've seen it from him. But he made the mention of the IT guy was the groundskeeper.
Yeah.
Previously under Rajazani. Like, how can that be a thing? Like, the IT guy who's making sure that all the IT operations run at a club. A football club's a business. It's a big business. It's got, shops all over the country, all over the world. It's got, it's just unbelievable. An academy, a football ground, like several hundred staff. And the IT guy is the guy that lays the pitch. Like, it honestly blows my mind. And that won't have been the only one. There'll have been other situations like that where people were doubling up roles and jobs and stuff. It's unbelievable. So the fact that the 49ers have identified this and gone out and started sorting it is no surprise. Not for the kind of institution that the 49ers are. Yeah. And it's extremely exciting. And it shows our future's in good hands. And, away from first team football, which, you'd never see a first-team footballer from Liverpool coming and playing for Leeds nowadays, not in relation with the divisions, etc. But behind the scenes, that it's not the same because they like the project and money. That the money situation is different. The head of academy at Liverpool will be paid the same money roughly to the head of academy at Leeds. So it's a different kind of landscape. So when you're talking about these boardroom level kind of situations that we've been able to get ourselves into with a couple of different names now, we're able to compete because the project is there. So I think it's super exciting, super exciting.
Yeah,
looks for a good future, mate. Good future.
Yeah, definitely. That's the feeling you get with it, and it's putting the pieces of the jigsaw together to hopefully make us a competitive club when we get to the Premier League. Because, I've heard some people talk about when, if Leeds go up, it might be a yo-yo situation. It might be, sitting in 17th for 2 years and all that kind of thing. One, I just don't think Leeds, that we're just not capable as a club. Or a fan base. I don't think any of us can handle that, really. We're just, the scale, the history of the club, it demands that if we're in that Premier League, that we are competitive to some certain degree.
Yeah.
And when you see moves like that, it fills you with confidence because you go, okay, they're growing this project, behind the scenes as well. I think under Radrazani, it was what was going on with all these roles. I mean, he was in charge for, 5-6 years or whatever it was. And obviously, we made it to the Premier League, and it was still very much, you had Victor Orta, and he had his way of working, his network, his connections, and everything like that. But there wasn't that club build. Obviously we heard a lot about the ground and, when Spade's going to be in the ground, this kind of thing. We heard Angus Kinnear on the square ball and, it's the 3 years, it's the 5 years, blah, blah, blah. We've got to wait to see if we've retained Premier League status. With the 49ers, it very much feels like, look, we're pushing the go button on this, regardless, and they know really you have to grow the club in all aspects to really be a top team.
Let's be fair with Radrizzani. He did some good for the club, but he was mining rock, and it was just all rock. And by accident, one swing came down and it hit Bielsa. It hit the pot of gold because Bielsa
got the diamond, didn't he? Found the diamond. Didn't
he did everything. Even the marketing and the social media stuff. It wasn't the club. It was the things that Bielsa were doing were impossible not to talk about. The pulling over at the side of the road and speaking to the disabled Leeds fan. The going to the under-13s Leeds game that we all saw him walking away from. The murals, that were the fans. That weren't the club. That were the fans that bought into Bielsa and what Bielsa was doing with the players, making the players going and picking up rubbish in pre-season of that first season. And then the football that we saw and the fact that he listened to Bielsa in terms of doing the sleeping pods and the training and all this kind of stuff. Pablo Hernandez came out recently and said that it was boring, but they all bought into it. So again, that's not the club, it's Bielsa. So that's where that success came from. And the second Bielsa went, and none of us saw it to the lengths of what we did, because we believed what we were told by the club. We believed that Bielsa didn't want players and et cetera, and all the rest of it. Now we all get to see it for what it was. It was just Bielsa holding them all up. And the second he was gone, they had no idea how to run a Premier League club. No idea. And thankfully, the 49ers have built up all that, and everything we've seen from the 49ers, everything so far has been spot on. Yeah. They could not have gone about this whole situation and transition better than what they have. They went out and got the best manager. They went out and got the best players that they possibly could for the situation. They spent money where they needed to. They played smart when they needed to. They went in with a strategy, which sometimes strategies don't always work, but if you stick to it, you're going to hopefully come out with the best process. They employed the best people behind the scenes to make sure that we had the knowledge. I always forget his name, but the guy from Newcastle that
Nick Hammond.
Nick Hammond was absolutely perfect for that role. He did the exact same thing at Newcastle. They'd seen a body of work of what he'd done and was like, he's our man. We need him in. And they paid him. They would have paid him a fortune, mate. Especially on that early contract where he was only working as an advisor. They'd have paid him a fortune, but they did that because they don't know enough about that world. They went out and got Greta Steinson from Spurs. Again, we're talking about dealing with clubs, bigger than us or more successful than us, and going out and getting them their people. Well, we went and got Greta Steinson, who has obviously done some fantastic work behind the scenes to make sure that we're as competitive as quickly as possible. And how can you argue with anything they've done? They've done a great job. Great job.
No, absolutely. And like I made the point before, this is a sporting institution. I know it's the 49ers investment group. I know it's not the San Francisco 49ers, but
same people.
Marath. I mean, he's been, sports for 20 odd years, 25 years or something. They know what it takes. And that for me is the most encouraging thing, because it's not, Todd Bowley or someone coming in or it's not, it's people who know how to build a sporting enterprise and what it takes to do that, and we've certainly seen that. Robin, thanks for your comment, mate. 49ers will invest big. We can also offload all our loan players, none of whom will ever make the team. When we get promoted, we're going to stay promoted with this new Leeds of ours. Although I did see Brendan Harrison got his first goal, I think, in the Bundesliga. So
you never that I'm here.
I'm not writing Brendan off.
He gave it that I'm here. 565 days since his last goal. He gave it the I'm here celebration. It made me laugh at that, to be honest.
Wow. Wow, it's just blimey. I do still think there might be a future for Brendan. I'm not sure out of any.
Maybe.
We'll
Maybe. I think there's a player there. I think he's obviously had a bit of a rough time. I think they all had a rough time, but they were all partly responsible for that rough time as well. I still think there's a player in Mark Rocker. We've seen that at Betis since. I'd argue there were a couple more that you could probably look at. But for me, in terms of what we've created, I wouldn't have any of them back if I had the choice. I would whisk them all off, take what money we can of it, and start again. Personally, because I think the mentality behind coming back into this dressing room, I just don't think it's necessary to kind of invite that problem.
No, absolutely not. One thing I saw as well that Rutter. So we've only ended up paying 26 million for him, haven't we? Because they didn't get the add-ons.
Well, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, so I saw this. I don't know if this is just a rumor on Twitter or what, but I've seen that. Because Leeds got relegated, we missed a load of the add-ons that we'd have had to pay if we'd have stayed up. So I think in the end, it's been about 26 million instead of 35 million, which is obviously,
it's considerable, isn't it?
So, it's massive, isn't it? Yeah. Something like that. But yeah, all fun and games. Have you been watching any of Jesse Marsh's media tour lately? He's on a lot of programs. I watched a little bit with him on CBS today. I've got a take for you. You weren't on the West Yorkshire Football Show roundtable that we did, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I was looking at it, and the fact that when clubs sack managers in like January, February, and a lot of the times it doesn't work. Leicester got relegated.
It literally nearly never works.
I argued the point we might as well have, in retrospect, because at the time I wanted rid of him, we might as well have kept Marsh for that entire season. Because why not?
I get you.
Anyway, and who knows?
I hear you. The guy's a con man. The guy's an absolute salesman. No, he is, mate. He for me, I see through everything that he says. When he were on the Simon Jordan, I forget what it's called now, but the pod. I just thought he just likes the sound of his own voice. I don't think his body of work is actually that good. I don't think he's achieved anything really ever. I think winning the league with Salzburg and having Haaland up front and Szoboszlai is. I think I could do it. I genuinely think I could go into a team that I'm being deadly serious. Like I think I could go into that team with the rest of the division the way that it is and put a team out and be like, go win me the game. I think it'd be that easy. So his body of work is so minimal considering the experience that he has got in the game. And every time he's been tested, he's failed miserably. So I don't think you'll ever see him get a top club job again. I think he'll end up.
He's got to be. He's pushing.
That's why he's doing all
on
this.
Monday Night Football. Yeah. He's doing like masterclasses and all this kind of thing. And I was watching him on the CBS thing today, and I was thinking, when you hear about his background and where he came from in America, it is amazing that he got himself to a level where he was managing in the Bundesliga and Premier League. I think it is an interesting story. You go fair play, like for whatever you think of how he managed Leeds, fair play for what he did there. But I think it gets to that point where it's, you've got to, proofs in the pudding, isn't it? You've got to deliver, really.
I would argue this is going to sound a little bit xenophobic, but I'm hoping I can maybe explain what I mean with this.
Yeah.
When Bielsa came over, he didn't speak English and whatnot, but there's a certain way that his mannerisms translate into a football world and through his people and however he obviously communicated, the way that it made me feel, even speaking in Spanish, it made me want to learn Spanish. That's how invested I was in the way that it made me feel. Yeah. Jesse Marsh, and I think this is an American thing, in the Premier League, it's never worked. There's never been a successful American manager in this league. And I think it works in America around other Americans because they are motivated by the way that they talk and the way that they carry themselves. In this country, we genuinely find it a bit uncomfortable. We find it over the top. Even when he's on Monday Night Football the other night and he's been so dramatic and everything's big, expressive and stuff, we laugh at it. But in America, they don't. They're all like that. And that's how they communicate and talk. So, in business, some of the best salespeople of all time come from America. Why? Because they are emotive, they're passionate, they talk like that. Now, I'm fascinated by Jordan Belfort. He's got an unbelievable story. The Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street guy, yeah.
He's unbelievable to listen to. The real Jordan Belfort is unbelievable to listen to because he's so persuasive and clever. And the fact that he managed to scam millions and millions of people out of billions and billions of dollars for years and years and years, that shows that how that American kind of vocabulary and mannerisms works. I genuinely believe that's what Jesse Marsch is dealing with. I think the Fulham manager had the same thing when he came over.
Bob Bradley.
Bob Bradley, yeah. I think you've seen it before. Brian McBride, when he was a player at Fulham, spoke exactly the same way. I think you see it with Kevin Nagle now at Huddersfield. It's a bit different because he doesn't have to manage and motivate the players, but I think you see it with the way that it behaves. So I just think you're always going to find that that's a problem for them. And I can truly see Jesse Marsch going off and being an American international manager and doing a good job. I truly believe that he could do that. Because I think tactically, he's not that bad. It came across bad for us because of some of the stuff that he said, but I don't think his tactical approach to the game is all that bad. It's the way that he's communicating it to players over here. It just doesn't work. It don't wash.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because I mean, he was saying, look, the players bought into it. You know, the players 100% bought into it, and etc. etc. But I think just tidbits you get from players who were playing during that time, they're not. It's like Luke Ayling never mentioned him at all in his kind of leading statement and that kind of thing. It does make you wonder. I think there must be a way it can work for them, and I think maybe it is a cultural thing where it's going to take 10, 15 years of more American coaches spending more time in Europe, that eventually they're going to have that kind of building block and they're going to know how to do it. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, going from Bielsa to Marsch was like, it was such a shock, wasn't it? You know, you couldn't have got two polar opposites, really, could you? Just in every sense of how they carried himself. But when I listen to his side, I think, look, I would like to see him do well. I think you can't write off an entire nation because of their accent, in my opinion.
No.
Well, I just feel like I totally get where you're coming from. I think there's that kind of attitude, that kind of, you know, it doesn't gel as well with us, especially not northern kind of, you know, gritty Leeds kind of.
It's almost unconscious.
Yeah,
Brownie. It's almost unconscious because I hear the things that he's saying and the way that he's saying it, and I just kind of it just goes.
Fist pumping though when we would lost 4-0 to Man City at home and all that. He's dancing and fist pumping on the pitch. You're like, no,
it's just a bizarre set of circumstances in it. He's a funny one. I hear your point though. In maybe you know it would have been better to stay with him, but he didn't. You know, like the players were unfit. And he came out and said that we were overtrained. Well, you know, it's unbelievable, really. It's unbelievable how that ended up developing. For me, he will always struggle over it. I think it says a lot about him that he didn't take the Southampton job.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't want to say it, but he didn't want 2 relegations on his CV. That's exactly what it was. He backed out of that, and he says, "Oh, I didn't believe in the vision." And I don't know if you've heard, but the Southampton decision maker, the chairman, I think it was, that's no longer the sporting director. He came on Talk Sport and was speaking about the interview that Jesse Marsch had with Simon Jordan. Have you seen this?
Oh no, I've not seen it.
After the interview with Jesse Marsch, Simon Jordan then spoke to the decision maker at Southampton on Talk Sport. You'll probably be able to find it on YouTube. And he basically asked him the question. He said, Jesse said that there was a difference of opinion at the top. And this guy basically said, we wanted him. Some of the guys a bit higher up that are not involved in the day-to-day running weren't sure. And we're only giving him a year deal. But the fact is, if you believe in yourself enough, you take it. And you show it on the pitch. And he also came out and said that the Leeds situation was a bit raw. And the first game that he'd been dealing with was Leeds United at Ellen Road. He made that out as a point, did Jesse Marsch, that was why he didn't take the job. I mean, for me, that's just weak. That's weak.
You can't have that, can you? Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there's no team now I could see in the Premier League that would ever think to approach Jesse Marsch.
Not a chance.
You know, but
Imagine that's Jose. Like, I think of Jose Mourinho as just an out-and-out winner. Like, imagine that with Jose Mourinho that were offered that job, and his first game was his previous team. He'd be running down touchline. He'd be in crowd. He'd be all and that's a winner. That's somebody that has so much self-belief, and you have to. If you're going to be in that environment, you have to have unwavering self-belief.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, with the managerial merry-go-round? You know, Tuchel, he's leaving Bayern. That's been announced at the end of the season. You've got Xavi leaving. You've got Klopp leaving.
I've been out of the game a little bit. Yeah. The past 2 days. I had not even seen that. That's big news.
Yeah, he's going as well, and it's just. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy what's going on. But anyways, getting back to Leeds stuff. It's before we drop off.
Sorry, we went on a ramble, didn't we?
Went on a tangent there. Leicester City tomorrow night, Jason. Huge game, obviously. It's going to be fireworks, whatever happens, and we just hope that the boys put on a good show, don't we? Make it 9 wins. 9 wins on the trot. Come on, let's do it.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be nice. It's doable. I mean, it's just another game, mate. It's just another game. Ellen Road under the lights on a Friday night before everybody else plays. What a perfect weekend it'd be if we go into that, roll into that with 3 points against Leicester, 6-point gap, cushion to 3rd and 4th. That'd be beautiful. But, mate, I'm going into the game. I'm going to say it again. Just enjoy it. Try and enjoy the experience. You know, it'll be a fun game. Don't get yourselves too stressed about it. If we do lose tomorrow, the season's not over. We've lost to the best team in the division. If we lose tomorrow, it's okay. You know, we can get back on it. We've shown that we can pull back 10, 15 points. So if we do end up 3 points behind after playing Leicester, then so be it. I don't want us to see us lose. I'll be gutted on the night, but it's not the end of the world. So let's just enjoy it. Yeah, this season is there for us. It's there. It's in his hands. I believe in the boys tomorrow. I think we win. I think it's comfortable too. I think it'll be a spicy game, but I think it'll be comfortable.
Come on. Do you know what's going to be brilliant as well? You know, if we get promoted, is like the summer before you're going up and you can talk about the players and the plans. Oh, please. I'm just dreaming for that. Come on.
What's your prediction for tomorrow then? So I've said 2-0 or 3-1. I think we'll win by 2 goals. Don't let me to kind of like psych you into saying something that you don't believe in. So
I don't know. I've got there's like my pessimistic kind of voice a little bit there, but
Devil and Angel.
There's a newfound optimistic voice there as well that's saying 3-1. And I
3-1.
I'm not actually watching the game. I'm not going to get to see the game. I know, which is a killer.
Can you
send me a little review at halftime?
I will.
And on text, just say what it's been like and a full time win. I'll be happy with that.
I think you should just divorce her. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown,
but I'll come on next week. I'll be like dishevelled and like I'll be recording this from like the flipping doghouse
shed.
Shed in back garden. Yeah, with mum and dad's spare bedroom or something. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it's gonna be cracking nonetheless. I mean, how many games have we got left in the league now? Let's have a look.
16 or something?
13 games.
13?
Jesus 13 games left. I mean,
doesn't it?
I can't believe it. It's crazy. Guys, if you've enjoyed the video tonight, please do smash a like on the video. Get your comments in as well if you're watching this later, and do subscribe to the channel for more content on Leeds United and all our teams across West Yorkshire. Myself and Jason will be back at some point over the weekend to look back at the Leicester game as well. Yeah, be Sunday, and then we'll have the West Yorkshire football weekend review on Monday as well. So please do keep a lookout for that. But thank you very much for everyone who's joined us live and getting all your comments in as well. It's much appreciated. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much for this evening.
Welcome, mate. Thank you.
And we'll catch you again when hopefully we're just 6 points behind Leicester. We'll wait and see. Thank you for watching.